Welcome to my third podcast. This is Nikki. Today we'll be looking at a study that we did in the psychophys lab. It's called That's Just Typical, a psychophysiological investigation of cognitive processing along the perceived reality continuum. I'll be presenting this in ICA in May, so I thought I'd give you guys a chance to look at some of the research that we do here. We make typicality judgments all the time, and very quickly, and most people will make the same judgment too, even if they have not experienced the event. So while most people have not been held up at gunpoint, we can all decide that it is likely that the gunman will ask us for our wallet, and unlikely that he would want us to have a drink with him later. So we decide that one is typical, that he would ask us for his wallet, and that him asking us to have a drink with him would be atypical. Many researchers believe our judgments are tied to memories. Typical ones that have the same or similar characteristics, are often stored closely together and can overlap, while atypical ones are further apart and don't have the same characteristics. This graph gives us a visual idea of this. The blue circles are typical events, and many overlap and are close together. The atypical event is the red square. It has none of the characteristics of the blue circles and is far apart from them. We ran an experiment with scenarios similar to the ones you would find on a TV show, ones that do occur but don't happen often to the average person, like experiencing an earthquake or a police raid on a drug house. We played audio clips of events in these scenarios and had the students decide how likely the events were to happen. After a distractor video, we played the audio clips again with more foils to see if they recognized which ones they heard and which ones they didn't. The clips ranged from typical to moderately typical to atypical. We expected students to decide quickly if an event was typical and to take more time if the event was atypical. We had not tested moderately typical events before, but we found that they behaved much like atypical events. This chart shows exactly how long it took students to decide the event's typicality. The students had 4 possible ways of judging the event. If they said they heard it and they did hear it, it was called a hit. If they said they heard it and didn't hear it, it was called a false alarm. If they didn't hear the event and actually did hear it, it was called a miss. And if they said they didn't hear it and they did not hear the event, it was called a correct rejection. We also wanted to know how the heart would react during the cognitive processing. We already know that the heart is a good indicator of the amount of processing taking place based on previous research. So we expected, after an initial deceleration, that the heart would return to a normal rate for typical and atypical events. We did not know what to find for moderately typical events, but we did find that the heart rate accelerated again while processing continued. This is visually demonstrated in this chart. We also thought that atypical events would be correctly recognized more often than typical events, and that they would be correctly rejected more often than typical events. We found this was true. This is demonstrated in our different charts. We also found that moderately typical events were very similar to atypical events. All of our findings supported both previous research and our own hypothesis. It was an exciting study and it was very informative. Well, that's all I have for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for podcast number 4 coming soon.